Hey, everybody. We have a really cool guest tonight, somebody that I'm looking forward to speaking with about all of the topics that she blogs about. We will go ahead and introduce her after the intro.
The truth is out there. Never stop looking. Never be sheep. Always disrupt. We are the ungovernable. We are the truth seekers. We are Sasquatchers.
And we are here tonight with Susy Bastille, who is a friend of the show. And we have been trying to set up a conversation for a while now. So I'm glad that we were finally able to do this. Susie, why don't you go ahead and let the listeners know a little about yourself?
So, like you said, my name's Susy Bastille, and I'm here because of my love for little men, specifically little men in folklore, not real life so much, the everyday little men, Puckwudgies in particular. Um, and from there, that has gotten me into some avenues that I didn't intend to when I originally set out researching Puckwudgies. So, I've had to learn some things about Bigfoot, UFOs, Thunderbirds, all those things along the lines. I am located in Connecticut, so I'm about an hour and 20 minutes away from the Bridgewater Triangle, which is a hot spot for Puckwudgie sightings. So I grew up with the lore of Puckwudgies. My father grew up in the Bridgewater Triangle itself. So that is where my interest started because of childhood trauma. That's what we were threatened with as kids. Like the Puckwudgies will get you if you go too far out in the woods. Don't go near the pond. The Puckwudgies will get you, and that type of thing. And I actually thought it was a story that my dad just made up when we were kids until about 2013. I think the Bridgewater Triangle documentary came out and they talked about them there. And I said, oh, there's maybe a little bit more to it than just a weird dad thing. And that's kind of what started me deeper diving into them.
Okay, that's
Cool.
fascinating.
Neat.
Everybody loves to start off with a childhood trauma.
Yeah,
That's
everybody's
that's
got it, right?
right. I wish mine was as simple as a Puckwudgie. My
Yeah, I don't think
childhood,
we can't get into yours, man.
well, the one that I can't talk about is I was fake kidnapped to be potty trained. So that's how I learned to use the potty. And
That,
so,
that fake kidnapping went well into his adulthood as well.
yeah, I just got out, just got free a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
shocked when my parents told me. Uh,
very weird.
but
So, obviously, first question and most glaring question. So, Bastille, is that name coming from the French fort or the band?
So my dad, his family's French. Um, they so my understanding is it's the French word for fortress. And the Bastille is actually like it's called the Fortress of Saint Antoine, I think. So French people have this thing called a D name, DI, and it's like a war name. So when you would join the army, you would pick a war name. So my ancestor, his name was Antoine, and he decided to pick Bastille as his war name, and that's actually like your whole family uses the name. So sometime in the mid 1700s, we became the Bastilles.
it's interesting. I
A
didn't know
very serious answer to a joke, a question. That's all I got for the entire podcast. I
We
just
have
used
a
up everything.
Bastille Day, so I mean, it's
Hey,
not too bad of a name.
do you celebrate Bastille Day, or do you have a separate one that's just like your family's Bastille Day?
We make I make a cake that looks like a French flag every year on Bastille Day. The rest of the year, I don't identify as French at all, just that one day, because I get to have cake.
It's
Any
fair. I wouldn't
reason to have
identify
cake?
as French either.
So I I'm interested in the Puckwudgie conversation because I mean I'll be honest, as deep as I am into cryptids and paranormal and fairy tale and all of the myths and lore that comes with everything, I'm actually not super familiar with them. And until we had linked up on social media, I'm not sure if I'd ever seen any information about them before, other than being something that was threatened as a child to behave. What are the Puckwudgies?
So there is a kind of a difference between the Puckwudgies we have in New England with the Puckwudgies in the Midwest, but it's all over the Northeast, Great Lakes region, New England. The ones we have here, specifically, the lore is they're about 2 to 3 feet tall, and they have smooth gray skin and quills like a porcupine on their head and their back. Here, there is a misconception that they are very dangerous and they will do things like lure you off of a cliff. There's also some legends that they steal babies, but only from bad parents, though. So, I mean, that's only bad, depending on if you're the kid or the parents. That one's kind of justified. But they are also said to like cause confusion. They shapeshift. They have poison arrows and magic dust. In other regions, they're just known to be kind of like tricksters, just kind of annoying. Like they'll steal your keys while you're late for work, things like that.
Yeah.
I've talked to some members of the Wampanoag tribe. That is the tribe that was from the Bridgewater Triangle area. And apparently, how they got the bad reputation here is in 1934, a woman wrote a book about the history of the folklore in the area. And they talked to a historian from the Wampanoag tribe. His name was Red Shell. And he gave this story about Puckwudgies, but it was actually an analogy for what the Europeans did to them. So because you couldn't speak freely at the time about Europeans and just he couldn't say what he wanted to, he used the Puckwudgies as an analogy there. And that's where they're evil, bad, dangerous came from in this area. You don't see that in other regions with Puckwudgies.
Okay, you had mentioned that they are known to shapeshift, and considering that they're like 2 to 3 feet tall in their standard form, what kind of things are they shapeshifting into? Or like, would they present themselves as a porcupine or something larger?
Yeah, so there have been sightings, and we don't know if it's even the same creature or not, but there's been sightings of about like 4 foot tall creatures that are just covered in black hair. It like the stereotypical traditional description could be them like half shapeshifted into a porcupine. You can't really nail it down. In the Midwest, Indiana, Wisconsin, Ohio regions, they have a completely different description. Their skin is like a bluish gray. They're about the same height there, but they have blonde hair and it's like a bowl cut. And they just have pointy ears that stick out from the bowl cut. And they're known to wear blue clothing there, like blue smocks is there. So, I mean, that could be their actual form. And the ones out here tend to shapeshift more. I don't know. But it does vary from region to region. And I've also like personally taken other like eyewitness accounts that don't fit any of those. I've heard some just look like literally little people. I've heard, I've gotten leprechaun, goblin, like people use the words they're familiar with. And you just like troll like. And a lot of the times they're described as having a chipmunk like face too. That's another common one.
Drew, you fit all these descriptions, man.
I was gonna say, I'll take the chipmunk one, but the bowl cut, that sounded like half of the Amish
Yeah.
population that live
The
around
the,
me.
the Puckwudgie's parents cut their hair, cut them some slack. That's all they had.
Is there any correlation to those kind of broader creature lore, like a leprechaun or a troll or something? Is there any correlation within the lore that you're aware of that actually, outside of being small people in the woods, that is authentic to a Puckwudgie, or is that just people kind of drawing conclusions based off of what they're familiar with?
So I've kind of flip-flopped on how I feel about it. At first I thought, like maybe the Europeans came over and brought like stories from like the Fae in, in England. But the Wampanoag people say they had this lore before the Europeans came. Because if you kind of like step back and just like look at the stories and the traits, they're a lot like the Fae in Europe. So I had thought originally it was like European influence, but they say it's not about you. Like it predates Europeans here. They're always known to be tricksters. That's whatever kind of little people you have in other areas, they're always trickster types. The difference here is, so I'm not super familiar with Bigfoot in the UK, if they have them there at all. But here, where you see Puckwudgies, you see Bigfoot and Thunderbirds and strange lights too.
Okay, I was actually gonna ask about some of those things because I've seen you posting about them, but actually, our friends in the UK that we have been chatty with all kind of say that there isn't much of a Bigfoot, if any at all, over there.
Yeah,
And
I haven't been able to find anything myself
yeah,
either.
they do, of course, have like a history of Dogman and some of the other popular things that are going on now. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear people who are into this stuff almost kind of jealous that we have Bigfoot and they don't. And that's just another reason why our continent is cooler than theirs.
Bigfoot can't swim the English Channel. So
Maybe it can hop on it.
St. Patrick got rid of the snakes in Ireland, and he also got rid of the Bigfoot in England. Right.
Right. So the Thunderbird thing, I'm like really interested in, because I've actually really wanted to get a Thunderbird episode in. That's another thing that we kind of always kind of kick around and then never really.
I think we talked very briefly. We mentioned it on the Sky Beast live stream about Thunderbirds.
Yeah. So what
which
correlation?
Susie didn't watch.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
I just didn't watch it live. I did watch it.
It doesn't count, man. You got to watch it live. It's not the same.
I'll plead the neutrality on this one. I'm just happy somebody's watching it.
That's fair too.
So the Thunderbird thing, what's the correlation there? Because I feel like I just saw you start to post about that, and we are interested in the Thunderbirds. And so is it something that just kind of like they appear around the same time, or are there instances where they show up together and have eyewitness accounts?
Yeah, it's they tend to be in the same areas. And to be honest, I thought it was kind of hogwash at first. I'm like, yeah, whatever. You saw a big bird, you didn't know what it was. But then I dug a little bit deeper into it, and there's just like with little people, there's lore about it all over the place. I think it was when I read an account of a police officer that reported one in the Bridgewater Triangle, and he basically like ruined his reputation by doing it, and he stood by it even though everyone he was like the laughing stock of the police station after that. And I'm like, people, your social life doesn't get better when you see something weird and go public with it. So that one kind of stood out to me. And then I started kind of looking into it a little bit more seriously. And there is another kind of Puckwudgie hotspot in Illinois and Indiana too. And both of those areas, when I started to look at those areas more, they also have lots of Thunderbird sightings as well. The one here that was a police officer, it almost sounded like a Mothman type thing more than a Thunderbird, though. So I'm not, I'm always not sure if they're the same thing or different things, or, if we just don't have a word for it. But he saw, it was like a 6 foot tall figure, and it was nighttime. And he thought it was a hitchhiker at first. So it was obviously humanoid looking. And when he got closer, just wings erupted and it went straight up. So it was not flying in the sky like a bird. Like it looked like a person, and then wings popped out and straight up into the air. More like Mothman than a typical Thunderbird.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
wild.
I always confuse people with Thunderbirds too. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, no one likes to talk about Thunderbirds anymore. Just me.
Well, I think one of the most famous ones is the Quetzalcoatl, right? From whatever culture. Sorry, I can't remember which one it's from. It's one of the Middle American ones.
It's either Aztec or Mayan, and I don't want to commit to either one.
I'm gonna say
I think it's Aztec.
Aztec.
I think it's Aztec, but I was to say I'm on the same page. But I mean, like, that's kind of one of the most famous ones, but it's more depicted as a serpent with wings rather than like a bird, right? But I think there are some more known cases of Mothman sightings in Connecticut, though. I can't name any off the top of my head, but I know that there have been sightings there. So you're right. This could be, is this mistaken identity? Is it a Thunderbird? Is the Mothman a Thunderbird? I don't know. Could be.
Yeah, I think, the Point Pleasant Mothman had a little bit extra weird stuff that went along with it that not all the other Thunderbird stories have. That one might have been something else or, different somehow. But I mean, there's some crazy stories. There is a story. There was one in Illinois. A 10-year-old boy was out playing in his yard, and his family was sitting on the porch watching, and they see these two enormous birds in the sky. And one of them swooped down and actually grabbed the kid, and it carried him, they said, like 30 to 40 feet, and then dropped him.
Where did you say that was at again?
It was in Illinois. Lawndale is the name. Yeah. And it was 1977.
Don't raise your kids there.
I had like some weird deja vu thing where that sounded almost familiar to me, and I don't know why, but that actually struck like a really weird chord. Like I could actually even see it happening. Speaking of like the Midwest and stuff, and over towards Connecticut, are you at all familiar with the Melonheads?
It's not the Midwest.
No,
Connecticut is in New England.
Connecticut is in New England, but the Midwest is where she was talking about. I'm aware of geography.
So, are you talking about your Melonheads or our Melonheads?
Well, there's a I don't know if there's any
Melonheads.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was going to bring up, is because you have your Connecticut Melonheads, but then also over into the Midwest areas, they have their own kind of versions of it as well. And I don't know if that might be something similar to what's going on with the Puckwudgie, where the Midwest has the Amish kids and you have the porcupine version.
Maybe. What's the physical description of them there again? Refresh my memory. I'll tell you.
Little people with giant heads.
Yeah, roughly about 2 to 3 feet tall.
Oh,
is
ours are
3 to
big, like
4.
normal adult size ones. I mean,
Oh,
the head
that's
sounds the
scary.
same, but they're
You've the grown up melon heads. I don't want anything to do with them ones. I can't kick those ones over.
Are you familiar with them at all, other than their height? I
Did you
not
watch? Did
research
you watch
them.
our documentary?
I did actually. My cats loved it.
I know. I remember.
Yeah. So they're in Connecticut. They're just on this one stretch of road, and they call it. Forget the name of the road, but they call it like Vampire Avenue or something. That's not the name of the road at all. They just named it that. But there's lots of stories of cars dying when you see the melon heads. Like there's
Same story. Same
Yep.
story here.
So I mean, it seems, aside from them maybe being a little bit taller, it seems to be the same kind of story. Have they ever stolen a car? The ones near you?
Not that I'm aware of.
So the ones here did steal a car.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. So we have the melon heads with like a 75 Chevelle driving around.
Yep.
That's insane. Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Something I hurry up and Googled it because I was actually trying to find the name of the road, and all I keep saying is Melonhead Road. But it looks like that along with these couple stories about the melon heads, that people were finding like severed pig heads as well.
There's also stuff like that up in the Bridgewater Triangle. There was actually the satanic cult murders that happened in that area. It was in the Freetown Fall River State Forest. They found all kinds of disturbing stuff in those woods there. But I mean, the most disturbing things was the like beheaded women and stuff like that. But they also found like bunkers that were built into the ground that had like kids' clothes in it and like a makeshift chair. And there was like tarp, like they were camouflaged, so like you couldn't see them. It was very strange.
Do you know when
place.
that occurred?
That was
Yesterday.
late 70s, early 80s
It's
period,
kind
I
of
believe.
around the height of satanic panic.
Yeah.
I can only imagine why, with things like that happening, why that existed. But that's pretty terrifying.
Tipper Gore didn't help, right?
No.
Thanks, Tipper.
Have you? I know you go out into the swamps and do kind of boots on the ground research. Have you ever gone out into this Bridgewater Triangle area and looked for spooky things like that?
Yep. I've actually spent the whole night in the swamp before. Gone out. I go out maybe, well, right now in the winter, it's been like once a month. Peak Puckwudgie season is like March, April, May. They like the springtime. That's when most of the sightings are, though. So I'm gonna get out there more often. Unfortunately, so I used to call myself paranormal repellent, but now I'm trying to make myself feel better by saying that some people aren't meant to experience things so they can remain objective about other people's experiences. That's what I'm
I
telling.
like that. I love that.
That is a
I'm
really
using
good
that. That's so good.
way to look at it. JC's gonna have to adopt that because he, despite the fact that he has a demon in his house, just has never experienced anything crazy or unusual.
Drew is not the first person to claim that there's been something unusual in my house, and I'm the only one. I'm just sitting around like, All right, just it hates visitors apparently.
I actually, like, at one point in my life thought I disproved demons because with the things that I have done, I should have had one by now.
Wait,
Like-
what are you doing?
What is going on in that swamp?
Wait a minute. Yeah, wait, what are you
Um,
the swamp? You're the swamp witch.
I mean, I have been
Alright.
called that several times.
It's
But
time,
there
boys.
was
We're breaking it out.
there
Why
was
do I have 2 forks? I don't know.
a point where I was going to like notoriously demon infested places. I might have taken a few souvenirs with me. Not stealing, of course.
That
But-
sounds like theft.
You know.
We're not snitches here. It's okay.
No, I totally am.
That's interesting though. What kind of stuff were you doing when you're out?
You didn't answer our
demon-infested-
question. You just said you took stuff. Yeah, hold up.
Let's not gloss over.
So, everything you're not supposed to do, like Ouija boards, and then like you don't close them out, things like that. Like I'm not like casting a demon summoning circle or anything like that, or like sacrificing anything. But
I mean, the fact that you even brought that up makes me think that you did.
my lawyer says I should not talk about it.
Okay.
I
On
believe
retainer,
that.
right?
That was actually very convincing. I have 2 semesters of law school, so
Oh, here we go.
you're cool with us. We won't get you in any kinds of trouble. The Ouija
Not
board,
any
though-
other trouble we can't get ourselves out of.
right? Yeah, everything on this podcast is alleged, and supposed.
It's hearsay, not admissible in court. Sorry, Drew, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the Ouija board, it's such a divisive thing as far as experiencers go, and the one thing that everybody kind of does agree on is that you really shouldn't use it. But I know so many people, myself included, who have, and I mean, I have experiences all the time, but I've never had anything outwardly frightening or anything that I would call demonic, or there we go, or anything like that. But
Except at
I
my
have to-
house.
right, it was one of the weirdest experiences of my life happened in his guest room upstairs while he's zonked out on the couch downstairs with his 3 dogs just relaxing while I'm being
Tormented.
Tormented by demons
Absolutely.
upstairs,
tormented.
10 feet above me.
Like I went through a series of tests or something that like I was being analyzed by whatever the heck lives in his house.
He tells me about this the next morning. It's like, okay, I'll see you later, Drew. And he drove 4 hours back to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I couldn't have been happier to leave it behind me in the dust.
I gave you a Dr. Pepper Zero for the ride.
It was a Sprite Zero.
Oh, it
and
was a
that's
Sprite, sorry.
exactly why you wouldn't be used in court because you can't get your story straight.
Man, I didn't experience anything. I was sleeping.
So, Jason, you've never had anything at all that could
I
even
mean,
see. I mean, I knew it was going to come out.
I don't know, like things that I'm very skeptical of paranormal things, and I go through a checklist of every single thing that it could possibly be. I would say the closest I think paranormal event that I ever had happen to me, and I think I talked about this before on one of the supernatural sessions, was the spectral voice thing that like we would keep hearing when I was younger. And maybe I was more open to these things when I was younger. Now that I'm older, it's like, nope, it's gone. But like we just hearing weird like voices, random voices at night and stuff. And my mom who is not here. I don't live with my mom, just for the record. she can attest to like just hearing strange voices like through fans. And I don't mean just like, oh, it kind of sounded like a voice. I mean sounding like a radio voice through a fan, like a fan picking up a radio signal. But then that would transpire into other things. Like I remember being down in the woods and hearing those same voices and stuff, like in the trees, and that we were hearing in the fans. Then not since I've been an adult, other than just some weird dreams and stuff, I can't really think of anything.
My questionable experience was weird dreams also, but that kind of spilled over into real life. So I started having these weird reoccurring nightmares where I was in my hometown. So immediately a nightmare. But I was in this one specific house, which, it was like next door to someone I knew. I had never been in that house and I didn't know the people that lived there. But in my dream, I'm always at this one house. And in the dream, I'm helping these people on their farm. And when I go to leave, the transmission is missing from my car. And I don't know like how I knew it was missing, where it went, what happened. It's just like dream logic. It just was gone. And I go to ask the woman who owns the house for help. It was like this little old woman. And she did have like two like farmhand type guys there too. I go to tell her like, I have to go. My transmission's missing. I didn't have a cell phone in the dream. So I was asking her for help and she starts screaming at me, telling me I can't go. You have to stay here, yada, yada. And then I try to run away and the two guys grab me. So after like the third time of having this dream, I called my mom and said, this is the dream I'm having. And I described the house and she's like, oh, that's the house your grandmother grew up in. And she said, I'm going to actually send you a picture of your great grandmother because that sounds like the woman you're describing, the mean woman in the dream. She sent it to me and that was her.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I don't remember seeing her picture anywhere. My mother only had 2 pictures of her. And the dream just kept happening until I took the TV out of my bedroom, which could just be a coincidence. Or somebody was telling me like TVs are like a black mirror and you're not
I've
supposed
heard
to
that,
have
yeah.
a mirror in your bedroom. I also tried to do the whole lucid dreaming thing and that kind of backfired on me. Didn't go well.
How did that go?
Not well, she said. Did you listen?
Yeah, but I want to ask, I'm not great at follow-ups and I just want to know more about it.
So I get to the point where she's like about to start yelling at me and I'll like do my best to describe what happened, but everything but her face got blurry and her neck like stretched out. So like her body stayed the same. Her neck stretched out. So like she was like in my face. And then I just freaked out and that woke up sweating, heart racing. And that was the end of that.
I think I talked on the live stream, not the Sky Beast one, the Supernatural Tunnel session, about the dream that I had when I was younger about the tornado missing every house but still chasing after me. And I had not had that dream since childhood until sometime like late last year, before Thanksgiving. Sometime I had the dream again. I thought it was weird. Like, why would I have that dream again now? And now I've had it a couple times, but then I'll have a dream of like me going back to high school as an adult and just beating up my teachers for no reason. I had wonderful high school teachers. There's no reason that I'm going back and beating them up. So like, it's just random shit sometimes.
Weird pent-up aggression that you're just
I had great high school teachers. I don't know why, like old ladies, and I'm just like blasting their heads open, like,
That is, well, I mean, that's terrifying, but also the Mr. Fantastic neck stretch that comes right up into your face
Yeah,
in that
right.
dream that you just described. That's pretty awful too. I don't. I That would be really scary. And was that the last time that you experienced that dream?
Yes. So that was after I had figured out the TV thing. I had actually like brought the TV back in and like I did like a meditation thing before bed and all like I had, practiced this lucid dreaming thing and then I just kind of like waited to have the dream again. And after that, I was like I don't really need to know what she's mad about. If she's mad about something, like that's fine. She could stay mad. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, that's
She
not.
can settle it in the afterlife.
Right.
Yeah,
I kind of
yeah.
like come at me, bro. Like let's deal with whatever you're mad at and
Yeah, just
I'm
show JC a picture. Next time he dreams, he'll go punch her like she's one of his teachers from high school. Take care of it.
tee up great grandma for me.
my mom like sent me her Bible. So now I have like this 110-year-old Bible that I
I
feel
saw you
responsible
posted that a
for
while
now.
back. Yeah.
Yep.
That's pretty
Yeah,
sweet.
it's
I
like
think the
a
oldest
lot of
one that
people
I have.
keep a lot of those as like heirlooms and they pass them down. There's like a page. It's either on the front or the back. I guess it depends on your Bible version. Is it a King James?
It's
Or is
before
it
King James.
so it's the thing. I forget the name of it. The Geneva Bible.
It is
In a wonderful leatherette.
the Oxford Self-Pronouncing Bible.
Of the OSB. Does it have the page like where you write your family's names in and stuff? It might be missing. It's either in the front or the back.
I've not noticed one, but
Usually there's one. And there might not be.
there's some maps in the back. Never noticed those before. And there's blank pages in the back.
There's a map of your house.
I hope not.
Eh,
The Persian Empire and the
There we go.
Babylonian Empire.
yeah, both still exist this day.
Yep. And that's
Accurate.
her name, 1912, it says.
I was just wondering. This has nothing to do with anything on the topic. I was just wondering if there was. Well, a lot of people pass that stuff down, and there's always usually there's like a name page, and then it's either on the front or the back, and it like goes back to whoever first got it and stuff. Just ignore me.
I did find 4-leaf clovers pressed in between the pages.
Yeah, 4-leaf clovers. What are the yellow flowers? Not lilies, the other ones. Tulips. Sometimes they would press in Bibles too. I don't know why. It might be it might be a Polish. I don't know. I think it might be a Polish thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know much about Bible stuff, so JC's always like this weird plethora of knowledge that just comes out of nowhere because I don't recall that being a thing when we were kids. And I also expected him to have some type of quip or follow up there.
Nope, that was it.
So when you're doing the investigations and stuff, it's obviously because of your interest in it and your blog. What is there something else driving you outside of just this casual interest, or is like are you searching for something? Meaning, or I don't know, like.
So there's been a lot of like weird coincidences that have happened that kind of make me wonder. Little things like I'll think about something and then the next day I'll finally find an article about it or, something like that. But the one big one happened actually this fall. I was in this little shop and I heard this other woman ask this man if he was Native American. And he said, yes, I'm Wampanoag. I had just found out that my horrible, horrible ancestors were the problem. And they had actually started King Philip's War, which was basically what the Puritans killed as many Wampanoag people as they could find. I had just found out that my ancestors were the ones in charge at that point.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah. So I hear this guy say he's Wampanoag, and I'm like just starting to deal with this, and I'm, annoying. So I said, you're Wampanoag. I said, sorry that my ancestors killed all yours. And he's like, oh, I'm sure you're not like a Winslow or a Hinckley or something. And I think he could tell by my face that I was. He just named 2 of my ancestors. And he's like, oh, we actually found out that my 7th great uncle murdered his 9th great grandfather, specifically from talking.
It's quite a few generations.
Yep. He's actually the one that took me to Hockomock Swamp overnight. That's where all the creepy stuff happens. And it's just strange that the reason I found out about my murderous ancestors was I was looking up Puckwudgie stuff.
So like that,
Okay.
like so I mean that's like a unique kind of learning experience, but also there could be something I think a little deeper
I think
play there.
I would say probably about 100% of people in the world would find something not savory about their ancestors at some point, right?
Yeah, but specifically in doing this research,
Well, the Puckwudgie thing, yeah, most people don't look up Puckwudgies.
I'm willing to bet.
Ancestors.
I'm willing to bet I wouldn't find anything negative about my ancestors if I was doing that kind of research, though. So,
oh, I bet I would.
I doubt it. You're
Just war crimes for days.
It's like a joke at this point. Like there have been books, people like old out of print books. People have said, "Oh, there's stuff about Puckwudgies in here. You have to get them." So I'll go through whatever I have to go through to get this crazy old book. Every single time, my family's names are in there. It's a little bit ridiculous at this point.
Maybe you are the Puckwudgie.
I might be my family might be the reason they're mean around here.
Right. I mean, I got to be honest. I've never heard of Puckwudgies before until I'd seen you posting about them on Facebook. And
do people not from here know about the Bridgewater Triangle?
I've heard of it, but it's not like a big thing now.
Yeah, it's like
so maybe that's a good thing to talk about. You should tell us about that.
Yeah. So I think it's about 200 square miles. Lauren Coleman came up with the name. It's not a triangle, though. No offense to Lauren. It's more of a blob. It is right where the Cape meets the rest of the state in Massachusetts. So like south of Boston, kind of like in between Boston and Rhode Island. It is a high strangeness area, essentially. So you have Bigfoot, you have Puckwudgies, you have ghosts, you have UFOs, you have giant snakes. It's one of my favorites. Just all kinds of creatures there. And then there's like mysterious animals that have like mutilated people's pets or livestock too that they've never found. Lots of like big orbs is the best way to describe them. Lights. They call them Taipei-Wonkas, the Wampanoag people do, but it's like the European will-o'-the-wisp, or I think they call them spook lights.
Yep.
Other places, and those are associated with Puckwudgies specifically. There's theories that the Puckwudgies controlling it or using it to lure people. There's also, like I said, the satanic cult murders happened in the Bridgewater Triangle. Fall River, Mass is at the tip of it. That's where the Lizzie Borden murders were, or I should say the Borden family murders were. And there's actually murders of children next door to that house too, right? It was actually before the axe murders. So a lot of violent crime and weird sightings in the area in general. Going back, like I said, there were those giant snake sightings. Some of those are from the Puritans, like before it was a country. And they say they're about 25 feet long and as big around as a stovepipe. And we don't have snakes like that here. Too cold, they would freeze. So those are continuing. Like it just seems like it's been going on for hundreds of years, like since we have a written record in the area.
Yeah, that one jumps out to me immediately for a couple of reasons. Number one, I have been doing some light research on Titan boa and other giant snake lore. I didn't realize that there was any that far north in our country. The one thing that I think is kind of jumping out, other than that, is the Puckwudgies controlling the orbs to kind of create a will of the wisp kind of thing. Because we have here in well, I don't live in Johnstown, but close enough to Johnstown, there's an area where there's a will o' the wisp kind of situation happening with what they call a lantern man. And just generally speaking, the idea of kind of using this light to distract and kind of draw people in for whatever nefarious purpose is not unheard of with some of this stuff. So I think it's really interesting that all this kind of high strangeness just really does just kind of blend together and mash up with one another, even across continents and cultures. It's one thing, like, people kind of look at us from the outside of this community, strange, like we're left of center or something. But there's so many weird correlations that, like, that occurring in Connecticut, and while also occurring across the ocean in England and having the same kind of reports over hundreds of years, like that adds up to me. That's not coincidental. And it's all speculation. Could never know why or how, but when I see or hear something like that, it's a synchronicity that I can't ignore.
And when you look at there's like veins of similar activity. It almost, for Puckwudgie specifically, it almost forms a line. And if you look at a map of Pangea, so when the continents were all squished together, Massachusetts and England were neighbors, right? And the Appalachian Mountains are actually the same mountains as the Scottish Highlands, where you have all of that Fey lore there. There are like other veins of high strangeness with little people involved, and they're always kind of on the edge of a continent or a fault line or something like that. Like the Ohio River is another place. They follow the land, like some kind of feature on the land. It's always down that. So I call it like a thin spot. Keel would call it a window area. But it's almost like there's areas where things are able to either come through or manifest more easily. A lot of the sightings, both in the Bridgewater Triangle and like the Illinois ones I was talking about earlier, they're near those high tension power lines too, Or there is another one in Illinois that was near a nuclear power plant. So they're near water and they're near electricity too. And it follows this line of activity through the country.
The thing that stands out most to me with that is you're the only person, at least in my circle of knowledge, that's kind of made a correlation to Pangea and went that far back to look at what the geographical situation was all the way back then. That is something that I wouldn't have never have thought to do. And now that it's out there, it just makes so much sense that we would do that, because it kind of demonstrates just how old this activity is, and kind of offers somewhat of an explanation as to why these areas that are separated by that ocean have that corresponding activity. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's
that's part of like what it was for me is like, we know the land is weird, but why was the reason? I don't think I'll ever know why, but there's theories in this area that it's cursed because of King Philip's War. I don't believe in the whole Native American curse thing. I think that's like an easy out. And they're telling us it was weird before that happened too. They're like, it's always been weird. They use the Hockomock swamp as a burial ground. They've pulled out bodies that were at least 8,000 years old from there. And
wow, that's
Hockomock means the place where the spirits dwell. So, like, don't tell me a place named that wasn't weird before we got here. It was named that for a reason.
yeah, it wasn't sunshine and rainbows when they came up with the
Mhm.
term.
Right.
It's chosen.
And that's another thing. It's always these Indian or ancient burial grounds where all of this stuff is happening. The documentary that I'm working on right now it's actually dead ass center of three ancient burial grounds in our area, and that's something that I'm trying to find a deeper meaning to. I don't know if it just happens to be in that weird center point, or if there's a way deeper meaning to it. But everybody always has these strange things at these burial sites, and I'm curious as to why. Because I mean, there are so many graveyards and cemeteries across the world where, at least to the naked eye, if you're not looking for something strange, like, there's not constant strange stuff happening down the road where there's a graveyard with recent humans buried in it. So, like, what causes an ancient, is it strictly because of some type of incantation or magic, or why are the ancient burial grounds so weird and not our contemporary ones?
I have a theory.
I'd love to hear it.
So, if you have people that are more connected to the land, like the Native Americans, they knew more about animals, about the weather, about the environment, very connected to the land. Maybe you would want to bury your dead in a thin spot where it's easier for them to move over.
Okay, so that makes sense, so that they're aware of that situation, that it's thin, the veil is easier to get through, so they are purposely putting their dead there to help them cross over.
Or maybe to help them cross back so they can talk to them more. I don't know. But it does seem, I don't know if it's like a ley line type thing or, what it is, but you have the same thing in Indiana. There's Puckwudgie sightings. It's actually, I think it's called Mound State Park in Indiana. You have the same thing in Illinois where the Puckwudgie sightings are. And I actually just recently was looking into Ohio. I heard of a Puckwudgie sighting there. So that was the first thing I did was I looked up burial grounds, and there was the mounds, like within, a drivable distance from where the sighting was.
That's strange. You should let us know where in Ohio that happened, and we could maybe
I'm
go out
looking.
and try to find it. We
It
could do
was
the
it was in the southwest corner,
Bah.
but I can
Tell them to go northeast, like the whole way to the lake.
but
And
yeah,
I just read I couldn't find like an eyewitness sighting, but I was reading about thunderbirds and something came up about the Black Forest region of Pennsylvania. Are you familiar with anything in that area?
Where the ham's from. Yeah, it's out by like Slate Run. It's out by Slate Run, right? There's a trail that it's called the Black Forest Trail, right?
I think so. I don't know if that's my area or not.
Where's Slate Run? I'm looking. Come on, I got the internet. Let's do this.
Yeah,
It's
you're right. Slate Run.
yeah, like St. Mary's. It's in Sproul State Forest. I think if we're talking about the same place, we might not be. It's like in the middle, the northern middle of the state.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not too far from me. I wish I had more information. I'm not from this area.
It's between St. Mary's and Williamsport.
Yeah, Williamsport's honestly not that much of a drive for me. I will look into that and see what I can find because that's a drivable distance. I'm originally from closer to Pittsburgh before I somehow planted a flag out here in the middle of nowhere. But we have so many strange things out here that have made living in this area that much easier for me. Like everybody always complains about living in like small towns and not having anything to do and having to drive everywhere, but I really have taken a liking to it, especially because, not only do I have my peace and sanity, but I am just a stone's throw away from all the creepy stuff. I just found out recently that we have had dogman sightings in this area, like 12 minutes from me by car, all the way back to like 2018. And for whatever reason, I wasn't tuned in, so I wasn't aware of it. And now that I'm like tuned in and I have this show and I'm doing all of this research, all these things are popping up that I just had no awareness of. Just like this Black Forest that you just mentioned. I didn't know much about it, but give me a week and I might have a documentary about it online.
Yeah, dogmen are the one thing I'm not jealous we don't have here. We do have the black dog, which is
I saw that. Yeah.
And it's actually in a town I used to live in. It hangs out on this one mountain. And I think there's similar stories in England, but the first time you see the black dog, it's supposed to be happy. Second time it's sad, and then the third time you die.
Yeah, you know what? We've been mentioning this a lot lately, but we talked about that with Nick Hayes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've just been, I don't know how bad his ears are ringing the last few days, but we've brought him up a lot because he told us about the black dog, and he didn't correlate it to a dogman sighting that he had also had when he was younger in the 90s, but he's in England, so he has like the actual English version. And until I got into this, the only thing that I could really think of in that regard would be Harry Potter, which is kind of like this. She like essentially stole that, like the bad omen.
Too.
The Puckwudgies are in there too. Yeah.
Anytime I say Puckwudgies and someone says, "Oh, like Harry Potter," I get so
like
mad.
Harry Potter. Did you know that there is a Black Dog Bar and Grill in Putnam, Connecticut?
Yes, actually, I didn't know that one.
And it looks like it's Black Dog themed, except for it's a lab. It's not like a mean dog. Oh, the prime rib looks amazing. All right, Drew. Next stop.
Yeah, we'll have to go.
We're going for prime rib night. It's tomorrow.
Yeah, come to New England. There's tons of creepy stuff. Like if ghosts don't hate you, so Andrew, like you might be able to see a ghost because everything's haunted here.
That would be cool. I
It's
tend
just
to
gonna be
find
me
them.
walking around sad because nothing's happening to me. Everybody else is getting ripped into different dimensions, and then there's JC just like, yeah, the weather's kind
Somebody
of
needs
okay.
to take the photographs, get the evidence, get it
Yeah,
on
it's gonna be
camera.
me.
Yeah.
And then you guys are gonna go missing, and everyone's gonna think I murdered you. That's how that works out.
I didn't think that far in advance. That's
Now
that's
that's gonna be my dream tonight now too.
I actually will try to make some time. I don't know if it, around the summertime or right before winter.
Don't come here in the winter. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I imagine it's
He
pretty
came
awful
here in the
there.
winter.
I did in between two of our biggest snowstorms of the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That's how dedicated I am to this. I'll risk dying in the snow for it. But I've always wanted to visit. I mean, this is going to make me sound like such a plain Jane poser or whatever. But of course, everybody wants to go to Salem.
It's not far from the Bridgewater Triangle either.
Yeah. So you said that there's that documentary about it. Do you know where we would be able to find it? I guess I could
Amazon
Google
Prime.
it. Okay. I'm gonna find that and watch it. I'm super interested in this. I like I remember when you brought this up and you were trying to like correlate it to or you made a comparison to the the other famous triangle, the Bermuda one. And like I said, just recently, after you had posted about that, I found out that the area I'm investigating right now is in a triangle too. So I'm curious. I mean, you said it was more of a blob than a triangle, but if there's some type of algebraic reasoning behind the strange areas where all of this stuff is occurring.
So I haven't read it yet, but Kevin Nelson just wrote an article in Backroad Lore, the one that just came out, about these weird places. So I think we need to all read that and study up and see if he has some answers that we don't, because I don't have any answers for that yet. But there is another place in New England called the Bennington Triangle. It's in Vermont, and that's just UFO sightings all over the place. So if you want to see a UFO, go up there.
That one I am a little more familiar with, at least by name.
Because that's where the Barney Hill is. That
yeah, yep. Betty and Barney Hill.
Betty and Barney Hill. Yep.
Yeah, I love
that's where that sighting was.
That's exactly why.
Yep.
Why I know of it. Well, this has been a fun chat. I'm glad we did it.
An hour gone by, right?
It's always fun when you look at the recording time and it just blew by.
Yeah,
like,
last time I looked, I said 24 minutes, and it's an hour and 3.
It sucks when you can have like a good chat that you're enjoying, but it does eventually have to come to an end. Susie, why don't you go ahead and for any of the listeners, promote your blog, let them know where they can find you if they're not seeing the screen right now.
Yeah, it's puckwudgies.blogspot.com. Puckwudgies is PUKWUDGIES. There is a contact form on there. If you have a sighting or have what you think might be a sighting, even if it's not in the areas we talked about. I just got one from Arkansas a couple days ago. So there are little people all over the place. If you need somebody that won't think you're crazy and you want to bounce ideas off of, feel free to reach out. You can do it anonymously there too. And you could also find me on Facebook talking about Puckwudgies constantly. Susy Bastille on Facebook. You can find me through these nice gentlemen here too.
I have my Puckwudgie sighting.
Acts like one sometimes.
Sometimes. You literally fell asleep with her on your lap.
Yeah, I know. I didn't say she treated me like one, but yeah. I've seen how she reacts when other people, like your UPS drivers or whatever, show up.
Death murder.
Okay. Don't want to distract from the
No.
blogspot.com there. So yeah, she's really cool and she will absolutely help you if you're a real person in need of help and not a silly troll. And
Or
if
a
you are,
Puckwudgie in disguise.
we'll get some entertainment when she destroys you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the show, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and hit our outro, and hopefully we could do this again sometime because it was fun.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for squatching, everyone.
Squatch you later.